Hi, if you're not new here, you probably know of my OC story, Corrupted. However, I'm going to take a break from that story and instead introduce you to this new story that I call Flourescent. Hopefully, after explaining some things, it'll clear things up and you'll be able to understand my animatics and I'll be able to post more of them. I know some of you might be freaking out being like, no, why are you stopping Corrupted? And the reason behind that is because I don't feel like it's as original and as creative as my stories could be, and I have a lot more in my head that I want to get out, and a lot more creative things that I want to do, and a lot better lore and storytelling, and that's why I created a new story. And Corrupted will still be here, like, don't worry about that, but this new story, I just feel like explains things a lot better and has a lot better lore. Anyway, I'm gonna start explaining things, and I'm gonna start from the very beginning. Okay, so for backstory, Flourescent follows a universe ruled by a dynasty of gods and goddesses. When an immortal comes of age, they get assigned a planet to then create life upon. This god or goddess can then decide to rule the planet, or they can let the life live without being ruled by a god or goddess. As years pass on the planet, gods can kill off their planet. They can choose a mortal being to rule over it, or they can leave it to naturally fall apart. That's what Earth's god decided to do, to let it naturally fall apart. Gods and goddesses have free liberties on what their creations look like, but most of them choose to create beings similar to what humans look like. That's just the backstory on how the gods and goddess system works in my story, so it's a little bit clearer and easier to understand. Feel free to ask any questions too in the comments if you're confused about any of this. I'm trying to explain it the best I can, but sometimes it can be a little confusing. Now I'm actually going to get into the story, and this is like, this beginning part that I'm about to explain is basically chapter 1, and it's not like the main story, but it sets up the story. Okay, so it follows an aerospace engineer by the name of Syria. At this point in time, worldwide government leaders came together to make moon mining legal. Doing this messed up the gravitational pull between Earth and the moon, and now tides are non-existent. However, mining on the moon created a super strong energy form called lunar energy, creating energy Earth thought was never even imaginable. On another note, Earth is struggling with an antibiotic-resistant form of bacteria called Guntula. Luckily, scientists developed UV therapy, which is a way to kill this disease easily. However, a scientist by the name of Dr. Jackins mixed together Guntula and a lunar energy, creating a chemical reaction where instead of lunar particles eating away at spaceware, they now eat away at your heart and lungs. It's sweeping out countries by the days. With little to no hope left, Syria proposes that they should try to find some foreign bacteria that isn't resistant to antibiotics, but is strong enough to eat away at this new deadly disease. Syria likes to think of it as giving this disease a taste of its own medicine. Her boss wasn't fond of the idea, but thought they might as well try, so they send Syria off into space with lunar energy. Traveling isn't as expensive, so they send Syria on a course to a planet probable with life, hoping it has foreign bacteria. And this is where the story actually starts. So basically, if you didn't understand any of that, basically, they mined on the moon, and it messed up Earth, and then there's a deadly disease, and they want to fight the deadly disease with foreign bacteria from a different planet, because that's the only way. I don't know if it actually makes sense scientifically. I'm not a scientist, but I think it does, at least with the science I've learned. Don't quote me on that. It probably doesn't, but that's besides the point. We just pretend it does. So now this is like the actual part of the story and the stuff that I've been making animatics on and like the main idea of the story. Okay, so Syria winds up on this planet after months of space travel, and she notices that half the planet is dark and half of it looks green and lively. When she lands, however, the planet is filled with so much foreign life, she was shocked. The planet was full of giant flowers, colorful leaves and vines, and she figured some sort of living creature. As she was exploring, she starts looking for some sort of creature that could possibly help her. She comes across a creature with wings attached to her eyes and colorful dots on her face. She speaks, but not like a human would. She makes these like low throat noises. I don't know how to describe it. I'm not doing it, but she doesn't speak English, obviously. So, Syria was nervous that the creature wasn't friendly and backs up. However, the creature grabs her and takes her to a village. This village is ruled by the goddess Lu. Syria thought that she was going to get sacrificed, but Lu performs a ceremony with her magic, giving Syria the abilities to breathe their air and speak in tongues. Speak in tongues meaning allowing Syria to understand their language and the creatures to understand hers. Lu explains how she is the ruler of the light and her creations are called luminescence. She also has a goddess sister named Tenebris in the realm of the darkness, who has creatures called ashnables, and they are plotting to kill Lu. Lu also explains how her bacteria would only be good and not harmful, so it wouldn't have the ability to kill their earthly disease. Lu offers to send 2 of her subjects with Syria over to the realm of the darkness so they can ask Tenebris for bad bacteria, but also ask for peace with the war. These 2 going with Syria are Dott, the creature who found Syria, and Kitch, a hunter. Syria accepts Lu's deal and heads out to the border between the good and the bad. The overseers, which are neutral creatures who look over the land, won't let them cross. They sneak across, however, and make their way to the land of the dark, and that's as far as I'm going to tell, because I want to explain the rest through animatics and lore and stuff. Okay, now that I explained the main lines of the story, I kind of want to explain more about the characters and stuff like that, and the plot, and not the plot, I meant the setting. Okay, to start, Syria, let's talk about Syria. Syria has this necklace that she has in the form of a pin on her spacesuit, because she has a spacesuit originally, but then when she has her ceremony performed, she gets new clothes and all this stuff, and she also gets these vertical dotted lines up and down her face as like tattoos that she crossed paths into their world. I don't know, it's hard to explain, but she gets markings and new clothes. Keep in mind that that necklace that she has is really important. She got it from her parents, and inside the necklace there's a little bit of lunar energy, like some particles, and that's really, really important to know because, I don't know, just keep that in mind. Also, the star tattoo is a tattoo she got on Earth, and she's Australian. She has an Australian accent. That's not super important, but I guess I should say that. Okay, next I kind of want to talk about Kitch. So Kitch was found in the Lands of the Light when he was just a little kid, and Lu took him in and decided to let him live with them. He wears a mask for a special reason, and maybe I'll reveal that later on, but I'm not going to say why to start. He's a hunter for the Lands of the Light. He's also kind of the grumpy trope, and Syria's kind of the sunshine trope. It's a pretty cute trope. Okay, next we're going to talk about Dott, because she's a very important character. Dott was originally the one who found Syria, and she took her to her village. Dott is one of the creatures that goes on the trope with Syria to the Land of the Darkness. Dott is a luminescent, which again is one of the good guys, and she helps Syria on her trip. However, there's a lot to Dott that I am not going to explain, and I'll explain through lore and animatics, but I would keep an eye out on her. She's interesting. Okay, now I'm going to talk about the god of the light, or the goddess of the light, and that is Lu, spelled Lux. Don't ask me why, it just is. Sorry, I just got a DM from Sunshine Doodles about the Eras tour. Hi, Sunshine. Anyways, back to Lu. She is the twin goddess with the goddess Tenebris, who we'll talk about in a bit. Lu and Tenebris both have magical powers, obviously, to create life. With just like their hands, they just can create life. But each of them have a gem that has like their fuel, so they only have so much life they can create, and Lu's gem is running low on like fuel. So she's like being very tentative about like what she can create and what she's doing, because she keeps her creations alive through that gem. Tenebris has a lot of fuel left, and that's why she wants to attack Lu, and I'll get into that in a second. So basically, when Lu and Tenebris were really young, Lu banished Tenebris since Tenebris could not make creations. She banished Tenebris to one side of the planet, and Lu got the other side. And ever since then, Tenebris has hated Lu and wanted revenge since she got banished to the dark side of the world, and her creations weren't as pretty and all this stuff. She's just very jealous of Lu in that sense, and so that's why she's trying to plot revenge. Going back to Lou, she does have an heir. Her name is Alaida, and she's Lou's daughter, but not really a daughter. She's just one of her creations that she claimed as her heir. Alaida does not have any powers. However, there are markings given to the gods and goddesses and their heirs that shows their royalties. So they have face markings and like markings on their arms and their stomachs and their legs. And those markings represent their royalty, so that's how you can tell a royal apart from a, not royal. Also, Lou and Alaida have, like, pure white skin, and that represents the purity of, like, the light side and being a god or goddess. And Tenebris originally had pale white skin, but when she was banished, she, like, used her magic to make it dark, because she didn't want to be represented by Lou, since she does not like Lou. Like, Tenebris is a savage. She hates Lou. Going back and adding on more to Tenebris, Tenebris can make creation, and she has a lot of magic left in her gem, and she makes creation. She just, like, doesn't find it as pretty. It's like, here's some inspiration on Pinterest for her creations. I'm obviously going to add more characters. I'm just still developing them and trying to figure out where they'll come in. She'll have some important characters. Also, Tenebris does not have an heir. She used to have an heir, but then she tried to kill their heir, but she didn't kill it. Like, it's lore, guys. She used to have an heir, but she doesn't anymore because she thought that the heir was ugly, so she banished it. Anyway, the other thing I mentioned earlier was overseers. So overseers are neutral characters in the story, and how they were made is, since the goddesses, Tenebris and Lou, were young, the other gods sent a neutral person to guide over them on their planet, and so that is Papa Seer. It's so dumb, I'm sorry. I might give it a better name, but right now it's Papa Seer. And he's like this little elf dude, and he created some like neutral like beings to rule over, like, just making sure everything's okay. It's kind of like little policemen of the world. And the way you can tell which isn't, like, what is an overseer is if they have, like, bright eyes, like, very bright eyes. Here's some pictures. That means they're an overseer, and they're neutral, and they're just there to kind of, like, police over the world and make sure everything's okay. Normal overseers have yellow eyes, or, like, white, yellowish eyes, but the Papa Seer, the powerful one, he has bright pink eyes. Just so you know. There's obviously a lot more I want to explain, and I definitely will explain it, but through animatics. So now that you kind of have a backstory, I hope you can understand when I add lore, and, like, hopefully, like, plot twists. You'll be like, whoa, I didn't expect that. That's kind of the goal, is for you to learn as I explain more. I tried to explain as much as I could without trying to spoil the big parts of the story, but that's just kind of the background and how everything starts. Anyways, thanks for listening to my jumble of thoughts that I'm trying to explain. I promise it's going to be a good story. Just let me explain a bit more through animatics so you can get into, like, the big lore. I just really want it to be introduced to you through animatics instead of me spoiling it and then making animatics about what I spoiled already. So, thank you for listening to me rant about my characters, and thanks for bearing with me. I'm going to be posting an animatic soon, so stay tuned for that, but thank you for listening. See you in the next one. Bye.